Retro Road Test, 1988 Renault 5 GT Turbo vs Ford Fiesta XR2. For anyone with even half a petrolhead's heart in 1988, the scene was simple: get yourself a hot hatch, thrash it mercilessly, and fervently hope you don't meet an unsuspecting Mini round a country B-road bend. Two of the era's most celebrated pocket rockets were the Renault 5 GT Turbo and the Ford Fiesta XR2, both small, both fiery, and both critical test subjects for the modern male ego. In this no-holds-barred road test, we take them back to UK roads, UK specifications, UK humour, and UK weather, i.e. rain. We'll compare performance, handling, ride, brakes, practicality, looks, personality, and ultimately, which one you'd rather have parked on the driveway when your in-laws inevitably pop round. Character and personality. Renault 5 GT Turbo. From the moment you spot the Renault 5 GT Turbo, affectionately known as the GTT, you know it won't behave. Its cheeky little face, with bold bumpers and subtle flares, suggests it's trying to look polite, but really has mischief in mind. The GT Turbo was more than just a GT, it was a proper hot hatch, powered by a turbocharged 1.4-litre four-cylinder lump that had your heart racing long before the speedo did. But the real character of the GTT is its quirkiness, from the slightly oddball turbo lag to the way it launches into corners with a grin. It's the kind of car that feels alive, like a mischievous terrier that occasionally bites back. Ford Fiesta XR2. The Fiesta XR2, on the other hand, was the boy next door of hot hatches in 1988. Always reliable, always willing, and always looked like it could behave itself, until you obliged it not to. The XR2's 1.6-litre engine didn't have a turbo, but it delivered a linear, willing shove that made motorway overtakes seem oddly heroic. It was sensible, until you started pushing it. Then it turned into that dependable chum who suddenly remembers they're brilliant at rallying. If the GT Turbo is a terrier, the XR2 is a Staffordshire Bull Terrier, friendly, dependable, but doesn't mind a bit of rough and tumble when required. Under the bonnet. Let's dive into the specs, because nothing says good fun like technical figures. Engine and power. Renault 5 GT Turbo. 1,397cc turbocharged petrol four-cylinder. 115 bhp at around 5,750 rpm. Torque, 142 Nm, about 105 pound-foot. Turbocharged delight delivering punchy mid-range pull, once the turbo spools. Ford Fiesta XR2. 1,597cc naturally aspirated petrol four-cylinder. 95 bhp at 6,000 rpm. Torque, 130 Nm, about 96 pound-foot. Naturally aspirated with peppy revs and surprisingly eager top end. On paper, the GT Turbo wins the straight-line power battle easily. More importantly, once the turbo spools at around 3,000 rpm, the GTT feels like it's sneering at speed limits. The XR2, while less powerful, never feels under-engined. The power delivery is smooth and predictable, ideal if you're not keen on a turbo's occasional mood swings. Driving dynamics. Now we get to the heart of it: how do these mischievous little hatchbacks behave on real UK roads, winding lanes, slippery surfaces, roundabouts that feel like kart tracks? Renault 5 GT Turbo handling. The GTT's handling is lively. Steering is direct and communicative, sometimes frighteningly so. The chassis might squat and bob under hard cornering, but it never truly loses its nerve unless you really shove it. Throttle input matters: want to tease the back end. The GT Turbo will happily oblige. Put power down mid-corner and watch it dance, joyfully, but requiring respect. On wet UKB roads, the GT Turbo is entertaining. On ice or in heavy rain, it's like a terrier chasing a sausage on skates, enthusiastic but unpredictable. Ford Fiesta XR2 handling. The XR2 is cleverer in corners without trying as hard to be a circus performer. The front end grips steadfastly and the suspension, while firm, inspires confidence. There's less theatrical body motion than in the Renault, and more composure overall. Understeer arrives politely, like a guest who knows when to leave the party, and the XR2 stays planted even when you're being a bit naughty with the throttle. On slippery surfaces, the XR2 feels reassuring rather than impulsive. Like driving a friend with excellent shoes, they don't slip easily. Acceleration and performance. Let's talk actual pace. After all, both these cars promise hot hatch thrills. 0-60 miles per hour. In 1988 spec tests. Renault 5 GT Turbo, 7.58.0 seconds. Fiesta XR2, 9.09.5 seconds. The Renault is quicker, noticeably so. In everyday terms, that means stoplight sprints, Renault first, Fiesta slightly later but enjoying itself. Roundabout exits, Renault leaps, Fiesta cruises politely. But it's not just raw time, it's delivery. The Renault's turbo kicks in with a shove that feels more like a slap delightedly applied. The Fiesta's power is more like a cup of strong tea, reliable, warm, and satisfying. Top speed. Both cars will flirt with the legal limits, the GT Turbo a little more boldly. GT Turbo, 120 miles per hour, approx. XR2, 110-115 miles per hour, approx. On long straights like the A30 or parts of the M5, the Renault feels eager to stretch its legs. The XR2 will keep pace respectably, it just does so with a twinkle rather than a roar. Ride and comfort. Neither car was ever designed for cross-country luxury, but let's break down what it's like living with them. Seat comfort. The Renault seats are supportive and snug, if a little firm. You sit low, wrapped in bolsters that whisper, or grunt, encouragement. Long journeys might make you miss pretension, but not comfort. The Fiesta's seats are also firm, but in a good work boot sort of way. They hold you in place, cushion reasonably well, and rarely complain back. Verdict, tie. Your own preference for firmness will determine which feels nicer. Cabin noise. Both cars are a little loud by modern standards, but the GT Turbo is louder, especially under acceleration. You'll hear every turbo whistle, every bump, and every happily revving heartbeat. The XR2 is quieter, more refined, but still reminds you you're in a proper little performer. Suspension and bumps. Renault 5 GT Turbo, firm. Enthusiastic. Entertaining. At town speeds, it sometimes feels like it wants to jump puddles. Fiesta XR2, composed. Firm enough to feel sporty, supple enough to live with daily. On poor surfaces, the XR2 feels more civilized, the Renault feels like it's trying to entertain you constantly. You decide whether that's delightful or exhausting. Brakes and steering. Brakes. Both cars come with disc brakes up front and drums at the rear, typical 1980s hot hatch kit. GT Turbo, strong bite, but requires confidence. Heavy applications can unsettle the chassis. XR2, predictable and stable, with good pedal feel. In an emergency stop, the XR2 feels slightly more composed. The Renault stops quickly but demands respect. Steering. Renault 5 GT Turbo, quick and communicative, occasionally twitchy. Fiesta XR2, weighty and precise, full of confidence-inspiring feedback. On twisty roads, the XR2's steering makes place-changing feel more assured. The GT Turbo's steering is sharper, fun, but less refined. Practicality and day-to-day. Boot space. Both are small hatchbacks. In real terms, enough room for shopping, luggage for a weekend away, or a couple of golf bags, if you're not a professional golfer and they fit sideways with some negotiation. Neither will swallow a sofa, but both will take sensible luggage. Rear seats. Roomy enough for adults on short journeys. For longer drives, the back seat is best kept for smaller humans or dogs that swear they're lightweight. Fuel economy. GT Turbo, expect around 25-30 miles per gallon in mixed driving, better if you're gentle, which the GT Turbo will not allow often. XR2, slightly better overall, often hitting 30-35 miles per gallon on a good run. Daily driving the XR2 will cost you marginally less in fuel, though both enjoy premium petrol and a keen right foot. Style and presence. Renault 5 GT Turbo. The GTT looks purposeful. Wide arches, bold bumpers, and that cheeky hatch stance. It's unmistakable. It's like a small French actor pretending to be James Hunt. It doesn't need to shout, its presence is confident. Ford Fiesta XR2. The XR2 has subtler styling, but that's part of its charm. You'd know it at a distance, and at close quarters it's formal, tidy, and muscular in a restrained way. The XR2 wears its sportiness like a sharp blazer, confident, neat, and well cut. Ownership and costs. 1988 perspective. Insurance. Both cars sit in sporty insurance brackets, though the GT Turbo often attracts higher premiums. Small, quick, and turbocharged. That's a red flag for actuaries. The Fiesta, with no turbo, is slightly more affordable to insure, always a welcome detail. Maintenance. Renault 5 GT Turbo, mechanically more complex due to the turbo. Requires careful servicing. Fiesta XR2, simpler, robust, and with parts more widely available in 1988. In real terms, the XR2 is slightly cheaper to maintain and, arguably, easier to keep running happily. The verdict. Let's summarize in classic road test style. Renault 5 GT Turbo. Heavy check mark quicker, more exciting acceleration. Heavy check mark sharp steering and lively handling. Heavy check mark distinctive, spirited character. Slightly harsher ride. Turbo lag and a bit of moodiness. Higher insurance. The GT Turbo is for the enthusiast who wants drama. It's mischievous, ballsy, and unforgettable. Ford Fiesta XR2. Heavy check mark predictable, confident handling. Heavy check mark more refined engine delivery. Heavy check mark lower running costs and insurance. Less outright power. Subtle styling, but tasteful. The XR2 is for the practical hoon, someone who likes fun without too much theatrics. Conclusion, which one would you pick? If you want pure excitement, the Renault 5 GT Turbo is your pint-sized rocket, less polished but undeniably thrilling. It's the sports car disguised as a hatchback that delivers smiles every time you boot it. If you prefer balanced fun, the Fiesta XR2 is the sensible sports car in a small package, sharper than a normal hatch and dependable enough to live with daily. yet still capable of putting a grin on your face when the road tightens. In the 1988 landscape of hot hatches, these two are legends. And whichever you choose, you're signing up for a proper motoring experience, complete with character, charm, and a fair bit of sideways fun. If you enjoyed this content and feel able to, please do like it or follow my blogs, Spotify and YouTube channels or Facebook channel, it would mean and help an awful lot. Thank you.